Hello, welcome to the back to the house medium or welcome to the house medium. I'm Adele Levine, your house medium, and I have kind of a dual in every way because I have two guests on at the same time. They're a mother-daughter duo. I have Maya and Kathy, and they go by Kathy Crafty Chica and Maya in my moment. I kept saying Maya in her moment. I kept saying Maya's in the moment, in the moment. Kind of felt like you'll see. I feel like it was like a psychic thing. Anyway, they found me way back when on another platform called Periscope. Anybody ever heard of it? Anybody went on it back in the day? And then they refound me again when I was doing a YouTube live. And I was like, this is really cool. So we connected and I did a reading for them on my YouTube lives, which I do, by the way, every Thursday, every Sunday. Little plug. I do them for donations. $15 for intuitive, 20 for medium, plug. Anyway, I do them. If you follow me on Instagram, I post it. And then I said, why don't you come on my podcast? Because Kathy, she is very well versed in the Day of the Dead. And I've always wanted to dive into this. Almost every year, I want to do something about this, either in video or podcast or whatever. I have a little homage with my earrings. Those of you not watching, if you're not watching, you can watch this. If you're listening to this in your, drives or wherever you are, you can also watch this on my YouTube. And anyway, so I wanted to have her on because I really have always wanted to get into it. I have done Samhain rituals. And for those of you who are very witchy, don't get offended, but I don't kind of connect to it. But I've been the seer. And if you're not familiar with Samhain, I am going to do an episode on Samhain because you should be familiar with all things that have to do with honoring the dead. I mean, this is the only time of year all of you step into my world and say, we really want to talk to the dead. We really want to know all things. And I'm not alone anymore. So I love it. I'm like, yay, everybody wants to be a part of this. And then you guys go away November 1st, 2nd, maybe 3rd. But then then you guys go away. So I like to milk all the things. Speaking of which, so we're going to get into it. What I like about with them is that we're going to talk about the Day of the Dead, but we're also going to I'm going to read, I do have an email from Kathy about an incident that she had in the hospital. I'll read her email and then we'll get into it. So I want to jump right in because I took my time with these two because it was really fun to have two people on, and they have so much stuff for you to see too because they have quite a big following themselves. They have a huge platform, each one of them. So you're going to love all the content and the things as I direct you to them. But let's step into the Medium Brew Cafe. We have two things. We have a couple things to talk about. First of all, I haven't tried any new coffees. So this is a time of year that I'm getting better at figuring out how to find things, meaning like I want to find things that aren't like mainstream. I don't want to just do like a Starbucks review or a Dunkin' Donuts review. I want to do like reviews on like weird things. So this is going to be the time, and different coffee drinks, and people come up with some awesome ones. And I've even displayed my own coffee drink that I created around this time. Actually, it was an apple cider drink. It's not that deep. I probably could just tell you now, get some apple cider, steam it, get a Jolly Rancher lollipop, put it in there, stir it around, let it melt in there, and you have a caramel apple cider. It's really good. I will kind of like do a little, a tutorial on it. That was pretty much it. However, also I wanted to talk about, last time I talked about, I had a little
time for paranormal gossip.
Yes, I had a little paranormal gossip last time we were in here, and the paranormal gossip I had was about UFO cowboys. I started to watch it. Oh my God, it's so good, but I didn't watch all of it, but I started to get into it. These guys go on their horseback. They all have like a certain specialty. that they do. And here's the funny thing, you guys don't know this, but I was working on a TV show way back when, and it was kind of my idea for to do like go out and look for things, and everyone would have a special, and I was the medium. Hmm. Hmm. UFO cowboys. Sounds familiar. But but they bring it better because they have they're on horseback, and they also have pew pews in their hands, guns. So they go out, and I don't know what they're going to do with them. Just saying. I mean, because if they come across aliens, I think the aliens are going to know how to disarm them. But anyway, it makes for good TV. And if you want to watch something that's kind of out there, you're like, okay, there's UFOs, UFO hunters, and they all have a specialty. And the guy with the white beard, they all wear cowboy hats, and they're on their horses, and they go and they get people's stories. This was my idea, by the way. Looking at you. I'm looking at you, UFO cowboys. But I would love to have you on my podcast. But yeah, it's really good. So I talked about it earlier, so I wanted to bring it up. I also wanted to let people know, if you haven't remembered, I am coming to Utah, my Utah peeps. I'm coming to Utah to do a seance and one-on-one readings. Now, here's the thing. The seance is starting to sell, and I'm telling you right now, I am not adding a date. I am not adding seats. There are 19 seats. It's just I started with 20 seats, and I think we're at maybe, what is it, 19, 87? I think about 17 seats left. Now, here's what I know about Utah people. You all wait till the last minute, and then you start buying. And then when I'm there, you're like, hey, Dilla, can you add some days? Can you add some dates? Can you add? Nope, I am not adding dates. So if you want to come to this, you need to get your seat now, because this happens every time. Everyone scrambles kind of like all at once. And then they go, oh, could you add? No, I can't add. And the one-on-one readings, I only have 16 spots. It sounds like a lot, but I'm there from I'm reading the 25th to 26th to 27th. So I'm reading all of those days. And those are the only spots I'm going to have available. So please come out. Now, my Burbank seances both sold out very quickly. I asked you guys if you wanted me to add one. Didn't hear anything. So I'm not adding a date until I hear something. Just saying. You know, we gotta work together. Gotta work together. So those are my announcements. Those are the things I have going on. So let's step out of the Medium Brew Cafe and let's get into our story and meet the ladies, because I think you're going to really enjoy this one. So here we go. Okay, here we go. Um, this is Kathy. So this is Kathy. So Kathy, the reason why she calls herself Kathy Crafty Chica, because she does crafts. She does she posts on TikTok, she posts on Instagram, and it's really awesome because she does little craftings, things that you can learn. And she has quite a bit of a following, and she's super awesome. And then her daughter Maya does a lot of comedy. She has a podcast, but they'll talk about it. But this is Kathy's story, okay? My first encounter of the supernatural was the night that my son was born in 1990. He arrived 8 weeks early in an emergency, and it's quite traumatizing. A C-section. I understand. If you've ever had an emergency C-section, then you understand it. I've had one, and we don't need to get into all of the things, but it is very, very, very difficult. My first encounter, we don't need to get into all the things in this podcast, not because I'm afraid of it, just so everyone knows. So you're clear. Okay. Women should be honored and worshipped and treasured and treated like gods, because we are. Okay, moving on. My first encounter of the supernatural was the night that my son was born. Okay, we read that. After the procedure, I was tucked away in a comfy recovery room in the oldest wing of St. Joseph's Hospital that also happened to be under renovation. Knocked out from exhaustion and painkillers, I surrendered all of my weakened self to the night while my husband slept in the chair next to my bed. Finally, peace. So we thought. There in the darkness, jolted upright, someone smacked me fiercely, not firstly, in the face with a pillow. It was so bad that I screamed in pain. I even felt the sting on my cheeks. Okay. We're all writing at dawn to anybody who was hurting anybody who just went through a traumatizing C-section. But who was it? Okay, so hold on. Here we go. Okay. Patrick, I sobbed. Why did you do that? He jumped up. What? I didn't do anything. Someone just hit me in the face with the pillow really hard. Kathy, he pleaded, grasping my hand. I swear I would never do that to you. I love you. Aw. Okay, we love him. We love him. I exhaled repeatedly to try and calm down, and the next we heard a chilling wail. A tormented woman. She cried loudly from another room, gasping and sobbing in loud, long drawls. It sounded like she was in a torture chamber. I turned to Patrick's eyes frozen wide and asked if he heard it too. He nodded in agreement. We clenched our hands together and we prayed as hard as we could. We swore we would ditch the hospital with our baby the next day. We didn't want to stay in that room anymore. Just then, the door opened and a bright light flooded the formerly pitch black room. Feeding time, the nurse cheered as she wheeled baby D'Angelo in for his feeding. Patrick and I shakenly laughed, relieved. Our new little angel, I get chills right now, of light rescued us. I wish I could say that wicked entity never returned, but it did. For the next decade, anytime I went to bed exhausted, vulnerable, stressed, fearful, or sad, I feel a sensation of being smacked in the face in the pillow by something awful, sometimes other awful experiences. It all became too much for me, and I felt afraid to sleep. It finally stopped the day I took control of my thoughts. I started going to bed with my intention, my spiritual armor, prayers, a gratitude list, etc. I told myself I was stronger than any invisible being, and I believed it. I'm much stronger now, spiritually and mentally. I go through life with a bubble of glittery protection. Aw, I love that. Glittery protection. I talk to my ancestors, guardian angels, and spirits 24/7, 365 days. All right. So this was an interesting one, and especially because it kind of lingered on in her life. Why was this happening? Who was doing this to her? What was going on in that hospital? We're going to find all of these things out, of course. So let's hear what I had to say. Oh, and by the way, what Kathy and Maya have to say about teaching us about the Day of the Dead and all of it and all of this good stuff. So let's go and hear what they have to say, and I have to say to them. Hi, everybody. All right. So I have a real treat. I'm really excited about this. This is what I love about the internet because I met them on a ancient app called Periscope, which I definitely can't seem to like I find people all the time. Some people you don't want to find you, but these are the people I did want to find me. So they found me on YouTube. They have a lot of things that they do. So I'm going to just jump right in. This is Kathy Crafty Chica. Say hi.
Hi.
And you heard me read her email. I just want to remind people this is the email you heard me read. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I have built a business spreading
Wait, let me
positivity through creativity.
introduce your daughter first.
Oh, okay.
Are you
Yeah,
just saying
I
hi?
yeah, I'm gonna introduce you both. Sorry.
We're ready to go,
sorry.
girl. We're
We're
ready
all
to go.
excited. We're all excited here. I will calm
Very
down.
excited. That's my fault because I'm not used to having two people on. So I'll take that. Sorry. I should have said this is Kathy Crafty Chica. Say hi.
Hi.
Okay, so yeah, don't worry about it. This is all like chill and totally chill. And this is Maya in the moment, although she's known for Maya in the moment, but this is Maya. Hi, say hi, Maya.
Hi, hello.
Now I want people to know this is a daughter and mother duo thing going on. And it's my fault because I introed and didn't like didn't like give you guys a chance to have space for each other, and I just kind of like jumped on in. So now Kathy, we all want to know about you. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, my business is called Crafty Chica. I've had it for more than 20 years, and it's all about sharing positivity through creativity. So I have thousands of craft tutorials on my website. I've authored more than 12 books. I design products, do workshops, speaking engagements, just all the things. And I love it because it is exactly what I always wanted to do with my life. And I found a way to do it and to thrive with it.
Yeah, and you are the author of this email we're going to go over as well. And also, one of the things that you do with your crafting is you know a lot about the Day of the Dead, right? And I'm
Yes,
not saying
yes.
the proper name, right?
Dia de Muertos. Yes. I being third generation Mexican American, I did not grow up with the tradition because
Right.
being third gen. However, I learned about it and reclaimed it for as part of my culture and something very near and dear to me, like probably 30 years ago. And
Wow.
I have taken the time to educate, research, travel, just to absorb everything that I missed out on early in my childhood where I didn't learn about it then. So
Oh.
now I've learned about it and I love to share education about it to other people.
Well, the thing that I find very interesting is that I'm half Mexican. People don't know that my father's side, hence my
Uh-huh.
name, Adela, Adelita, you know.
Uh-huh.
I
I
didn't
love
grow
that.
I didn't grow up with that side of me either. So I don't speak Spanish, and people who hear my name, it's very famous in Mexico, and they'll sing me the song and I'm like, "Hi." And they're very disappointed because it's a famous name in
Mm.
Mexico. But
Yes.
I've always had like a connection to that ritual holiday
Mhm.
more than all the
Tradition. Yes.
tradition, more than like Samhain, which is a different kind of witchy one. Which is
Mm.
I've done Samhains for people. I've been a seer in Samhains, but I've always felt different. I don't know why it feels more reverent. It feels something
Yeah.
about the energy, and I like the colors because it's not negative. There's something very positive energy wise. But we'll get into it. Let's get
Okay.
to your daughter and let her speak
Hi,
on
Maya.
what do you tell everybody all about you, Maya?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I found you through Periscope a long time ago. You
Right?
actually like did a little reading of my grandpa. My mom and I were just sitting on the bed and then we were
Oh,
like, let's
life
ask about like
changing.
yeah, it was life changing. We're like, let's ask about grandpa.
Truly was.
Yes, but
Oh,
I am an internet person. I've been on the internet since I was 16 years old. I started a blog, Mayainthemoment, from, my mom's guidance and everything. She's like an internet queen, the OG. And I just started, I really love to perform and make music and make videos and just make content based on any little moments that I have, hence Maya in the Moment. And I, started really on Vine, which was that 6 second app.
mhm.
RIP Vine, love
Yeah.
you so much. Um, and I gained a following on there and then worked my way up through like YouTube and eventually led to BuzzFeed for their Latino channel called Better Like. I was there for a couple years and now I'm just kind of doing my own thing. I make videos that are like, lifestyle videos, mostly comedy based. But
Mhm.
I also talk about my identity as third, fourth generation Mexican American, learning Spanish, not feeling enough. I used to make videos based on that narrative. So I feel you, girl.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a thing, but it's all about reconnecting, and no matter
Mhm.
what, we are all connected. Like we're all connected to that, no matter what anybody else says, because it's all projection. And what is Spanish really? Spanish comes from Spain, the colonizer. So like,
Yeah. Well, I've been to Spain, and I can tell you they will remind you
oh,
that
we just
even
got
the.
back. Yes,
Oh, you did?
we went in June, and
Okay.
yeah,
Are
no.
That's a
they still
whole other show.
really? Because it has been, I don't, let me see, like a long time. Let's just say a few decades time, before, since I've been there, maybe a couple of decades. And back then, they did not appreciate that I didn't speak English. And then when I did speak Spanish, because I do speak poquito, little bit, um, of Spanish, and they treat you like, shut up, like, don't even try.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's
Is it still like
exactly,
that?
yes, that's my some of my cousins,
Oh.
like we all kind of understand Spanish. We're Chicanas, like in
Mhm.
Phoenix, Arizona. Chicanas are like a different breed of Mexican American. We're Mexican American living in between the hyphen of Mexican American, like, it very much that's what a subculture is. And
Right.
so, I was very proud of the Spanish that I had learned from my experience at Better Lake, and doing all these videos. And so I was like, yeah, I can get through going to Spain and stuff. And it just my accent is neutral. I don't sound Mexican. I don't sound anything.
Right,
It's
right, right.
neutral. And they still were very, very gross and icky. And
Wow.
it
I
was, I
thought
like,
maybe, like, after all these years, we have the internet, because I was there, like late 90s, and so I figured, like, the internet wasn't like it is today, so I thought maybe there'd be an
I do
improvement.
want to say though, I
Okay.
did have some very nice
oh yeah,
experiences
for sure.
of the
For sure.
locals
She's
who
like,
really
"Spain,
came through
don't
and
No, no,
come
helped
no.
for
me.
me."
But be
I think it
specific,
was
like the
the high
mountain
tourist
towns.
areas,
Yes.
the high traffic tourist
Okay.
areas. They just
Yeah.
were not having it. We were just,
Right.
We went
cattle
to the
going through.
pueblos. We went to the pueblos
Yeah.
and hung out with these like old, like these like viejitos who were just really, really kind and nice and
Mhm.
embracing us. And we're still communicating even though we weren't speaking the same language all the time. So it
Mhm.
Yeah.
definitely was like, yeah, Barcelona and like Madrid. That
But
was
we
where it
still
Madrid.
was.
had to hold space for it because I came home and did a 23andMe and an ancestry.com, and it's like 39% Spain from way back, and then,
Oh, wow.
36% indigenous Mexican. So, it's like part of who we are at the same time that we will spend our lifetime like trying to figure out and balance and see where it fits in. But it's good to know we went. I'm really glad that we went and
And we'll never go
experienced
again.
it. You know,
Your mom's being,
Good.
like, really political.
I'm
She's like
good.
ambassador here. She's like,
oh, but
"Listen, we want to keep the Spain people happy,
I'm
okay,
good.
Maya?"
And
right.
comfort me. And try to
At the
comfort
end of
me.
the trip,
Try.
we got so sick.
Oh
Like,
yeah, we
and
got
I was
sick.
like, I'm
Oh.
sorry for
Well,
talking
because
crap about
what did I
Spain.
do? What did I do? We were driving around the Christopher Columbus statue and I flipped him off.
Okay.
And
And that's
so
when we
Oh, no.
got sick. That's when we got sick.
Oh, snap. I got sick from Spain too. What the
Yeah.
hell? I came from there, like, with bronchitis at the time. I remember, well, I was in Madrid, and the funniest thing is this is, like I said, pre-internet, where you have access to all types of people. They did not believe me I was American, for one, because back then I was wearing, like, bell bottoms when it wasn't the style at the time. This is the 90s. I was
Mhm.
wearing bell bottoms, big black shoes. I've always dressed in this kind of funky way. And they were like, "It's ridiculous. You are not American. Americans wear jeans and tennis shoes." And they were like, "You don't look American." Well, we're not all blonde and, like, blue eyed. And they did not believe me. They thought I was lying when I said
Oh,
I didn't speak Spanish. They thought I was trying to get out of buying stuff. So there was like, they were convinced I was from Barcelona because I was in Madrid. They were like, "You look like a Barcelona. You look like you're from here." And I was like, "Well, I am not from here because I'm mixed, Mexican and Jewish. People think I'm like everything. So we're a lot of things." So there was like a mix of anger at me and welcoming. So it was like
Yeah.
very confusing.
Like, I don't feel, yeah, I'm confused.
I'm confused. I feel like you're mad at me because I'm not from here and you almost are thinking I'm lying. But anyway, it was an interesting, I'm really think it's fascinating that it's kind of the same and it's 2024.
Yeah. Yeah. I think once you get into people one on one, you will find those good connections. Because I did
Okay.
find some
Yeah, I
really
agree.
good connections one on one with people.
Yeah.
But again, tourist areas don't even bother. Like,
It's
just go for
probably
the
everywhere,
evening.
right?
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
for
that here
sure.
in LA too. So I mean,
Yeah.
we're a big tourist spot and
Oh,
we're
yeah.
not exactly, you know, welcoming in Hollywood Boulevard type of
Oh,
thing.
every time I drive down, I'm like, "Why are you guys here? It's
There's
disgusting.
it's like
It's
I always say
worse.
the same thing. I go, "This is the grossest
It's
part.
gross."
Go somewhere else. Trust me. Go to the Toscano Gardens. Go to Pasadena or something." Yeah, I know. I know. So I think it makes sense. Okay. All right. So that's really interesting. Okay. So let's get into, can you give me the true essence of the tradition? And I called it a ritual because I know some people treat it that way, and I'm glad you corrected me. I feel like a lot of people, this is my take, and I'd love to know both of yours take on it. I'm me being a medium, and this is my world. I'm doing two seances
Mhm.
next month. This is very similar, and I also don't believe that Halloween's the only time that the dead are available to connect. But I do like things that are honorable and
Yeah.
come from the heart. And I always have felt that more, and also the colorfulness. It's something about it feels more positive
Yeah.
than like negative, which is what bothers me about a lot of things. But and I just didn't connect with the Samhain thing. I mean, it's cool and everything. It's just not my thing. Uh, and all the witches come for me. So you can come for me. I've done a lot of Samhains, but it's just, there's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't have the same celebratory
Yeah.
vibe. So my question to you is that I've noticed it's become very, very mainstream,
Yeah.
and everyone's slapping on
The sugar
the paint
skull.
on their face, the sugar skulls. What's your take on that part? And then we'll go backwards. I'm going to go backwards. I want to know what you
Okay.
think about today. And then you're going to go like, and here's what it's really about type of thing.
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share the education on what
Yeah.
Dia de los Muertos is about, because I think that because it's so colorful and bright and beautiful, and because it comes after Halloween,
Hmm.
people gravitate towards it because they like the cute sugar skulls, and they have a tendency
Hmm.
to lump it together with Halloween, which it has
Yes.
absolutely nothing to do
Nothing.
with Halloween at all. And
Hmm.
I think that the more that people take time to learn about the history and the traditions of it, it will benefit them, because they'll understand the meaning of it, because it's really about celebrating the cycle of life. So I think that
Okay.
it is highly commercialized,
Yes.
and you go to the dollar store now and you see
I
all of these cute little things,
know.
in which I try not to judge. Number one, I say buy from local artists if you can.
Hmm.
It's a little bit more pricier, but if you're a teacher and you want to share education at a school, and you can go to the dollar store and get the supplies that you need to decorate, to share the education,
Yeah,
do
that's
what you
good.
need to do to make it work for you, to share the beauty and the history of it.
That is very well put. I love that because you're not upset about it. You're not being like me, because I can be that way. I've been known to be that way, to be a little bit like, listen, you don't know what you're doing, so why are you
Yeah.
doing this?
Well,
But
I
you're right.
get upset when people just blatantly do it and profit
Right.
off of it without taking the time to
To
educate
learn.
themselves or others,
Right.
and holding space for our community, and you know giving them opportunity to celebrate their culture, our culture, so in
Hmm.
that way I get triggered sometimes when I
Mhm.
Yeah.
see people who are just blatantly doing it without, who don't care about sharing education, who just want to make money off of it. That gets me really upset. So
Yeah. I
that's why
agree.
I'm always telling people, like, learn about it, share the information.
That's very good. I feel like that's a more positive way, because in a time where we're very concerned about culture appropriating and things like this, I
Mhm.
feel like people want to have things and incorporate things, but they don't want to feel like they're offending anyone. But we want people to learn these things, but we just want them to understand, what it is really coming from, which is why I'm having you on, because
Yeah.
this is part of my blood, but I wasn't raised in it. So I'm not going to
Yes.
pretend all of a sudden I could, and no one would probably question me, right? They'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, she knows, she's a medium, she's Adela, she's like half Mexican, she must know every." No, I don't. I'm not going to
Yeah.
pretend something I'm not. Maya, what is it like? Do you connect to that tradition? Is that something you feel connected to?
Yeah, well, I grew up with it because my mom and my
Yeah.
dad were very much connected into it. And so I grew up my parents are both very holistic and spiritual, and
Yeah.
they really taught my brother and I about the cultural significance, but also the spiritual and just like indigenous
Mm-hmm.
you know
Mm-hmm.
meaning of it. And it very much, I feel like, was one of the anchors for my own life and morals and values and everything, to value family and honoring them in a way that, like, death isn't scary. Like, we never grew up thinking like
Yes.
death is scary, or we should be afraid of it, or like that sadness. Like, Mexican culture, you go to a funeral and we're blasting the banda, we're blasting the cumbias, we're dancing, we're celebrating, we're crying too, but we're laughing because we're remembering the life of our loved one, and it's a celebration. And that was something that we just clicked into at an early age. So when we grew up going to these different events where my parents were selling their handmade art, at like 8 or like 7 years old, my brother and I were like, actually, the tradition of Dia de los Muertos, or it's not scary. Like, we were very like educated on it,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
these like non-Latino people, these like white people, would come up and really like look at my parents' art and be like, oh, what is
Yeah,
this? Like,
because this was in the early 90s,
mhm.
'90s,
or I'd say like the
late
mid to late
'80s.
90s. It was
Yeah,
more
late
like,
Early
90s.
'90s, late
yeah,
'90s. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
so
because
they
it
would
was, no one had heard of it then.
and
No,
they
no,
yeah.
isn't it crazy how much, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy to me how much has changed. But sorry, go ahead, Maya.
No, yeah, they would just look at these beautiful designs with skulls and just take them as like, this is evil, this is the devil, this is,
Yeah,
and I'm just like, dang, like, it that's a whole other thing. But it's
that's
like,
a whole other thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, no, it's actually supposed to be like celebratory and happy. And my parents do custom art also, if you're like your loved one has passed away or something,
Mhm.
kind of educating them at like a young age about this. And so I've always, it's been like an anchor for me, in growing up. And I've always really, really like respected my parents, now more than ever as I get older and becoming an adult. Or I guess I am an adult, I'm 31, but I'm still a baby. Um, like,
She's like, as I
I'm
grow
still
into
a
my
baby.
adulthood.
I'm still a baby, still baby girl. So,
Yes.
like, it's really
She's
cool
pretty
that
young.
they decided to make their career and their lifestyle, everything, like, based on celebrating and educating this tradition, which I think
Mhm.
is like so important, and they were staples in like the early 90s, late 80s, and throughout, since then, as like really prominent people to like educate and make art about Day of the Dead, and not like commercialize it,
Mhm.
and like you
Right.
search up Day of the Dead and you see my parents' art, on Google. Like they're one of the first
Oh,
people who like pop up, like, and it's really
wow.
cool. It's really cool because I'm like they have the best intentions, for it. And other people out here who are commercializing, they don't have the best intentions. And I think that's where it gets a little sticky, and that's where I get mad, where I'm like,
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
I understand you. I also wanted to emphasize to everybody listening or watching that I didn't emphasize that, Kathy has a very strong, like Maya touched on it, and they're being pretty humble, but they have a huge, like, successful career in this. Like if you go look them up while you're listening, because I know you guys are Googling it right now, and you go look her up and you look up Kathy, Crafty Chica. I had to like make sure I didn't screw it up. Um, and you go look up Maya. I want to say I'm in my moment, but it's actually, oh yeah, I did. I got it right. Maya
Maya
in my.
in the moment.
In the moment.
Look, I wrote it down in my moment. Is that a sign?
It
Is that
is. It
Maybe
is.
it is.
It
Yes.
is.
something's coming through
It
me
is, girl.
that is like I can't get rid of. But in the moment, for the internet world, they have a very successful career in what they do, very hefty career. So I feel like, knowing how long you've been doing this, Kathy, I know what it feels like when you've like been putting stuff out there, especially a subject matter like this, because I've been doing what I've been doing over 2 decades. And I used to say things like raise your vibrations back in the 90s. And in the I want to say early 2000s, very early, and no one knew what the hell I was talking about. And when I started seeing them on T-shirts and people going, "Raise your vibes, good vibes," I was like, "What the fuck? I should have like made T-shirts, I guess."
Yeah.
Nobody knew what I was talking about, and they were like, "What do you mean vibrations? What do you mean by that?" I was like, "Well, that's if you raise your vibration, things will change." And when you see, when you're kind of trying to bring into the world, like Maya was saying, like, don't be afraid of death and the dead, and it's like not what you think it is, and everyone's like running away from you, and then all of a sudden you see sugar skulls on t-shirts and you
Yeah.
go to the 99-cent store. That's how I feel with the raising vibrations as well.
Yeah.
But when I started to see sugar skulls everywhere too, I was like, wait a minute, what's happening here?
Yes.
Because
Because
I
in
know
one
I used to be
way,
scared of this stuff. Right.
it makes me happy that
Right.
it's out there, because it really is such a beautiful celebration of the cycle of life. It's,
Right.
we are all
Yes.
on this
I love
journey,
that.
and the
I'm gonna cry.
people, death is a part of our journey. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's something we all have in common.
Mhm.
And Dia de los Muertos, it's November 1st and 2nd. And it's
Mhm.
believed that at midnight, the first night, that's the night that the children spirits can come back and visit their families. The
Okay.
second night is for adults.
Okay.
So what you do is you build an ofrenda, either in your house, at their gravesite. I've seen community
It's like a
ones,
shrine.
and it's like a
Right.
shrine,
Like an
and you
altar.
can put their picture, you put things to help their spirit find you. So the marigold flowers, which look like a sun,
Mhm.
they have a very strong scent aroma that helps lure them back. You put copal and you burn that. You have the prayer candles, you have the four elements of air, fire, earth. You can put like
And
some
water.
dirt
Yeah.
there. The papel picado represents the wind. You put a cup of
Mm.
water, because when they come back from their journey from the afterlife, they're very
They're
thirsty.
thirsty.
Yes, you put a little mat so they can wipe their feet, and you put
Mhm.
all the things that they loved during their time on earth. So
Mhm.
maybe it's a pack of ciggies, maybe it's their favorite CD, their favorite food. You can make a plate of food and put it there. There's pan de muerto, bread of the dead, that's like a lightly sweetened bread that you can put with a cup of coffee. So it's very, very joyous. And I feel like it's a way for people to, we're so used to grieving,
Mm-hmm.
which is a human thing to do when you lose someone you love. But
Right.
for Dia de los Muertos, it is about celebrating their life, that they were here, that you had that experience with them, and you recognize their time here, and you know that, you know what, Dad, I'm going to see you on the other side, like someday coming up, we don't know when, but it's really about celebrating the life, the cycle of a life. And it's like a 3,000-year-old tradition. Like,
Mm-hmm.
granted, when the Aztecs did it, it was a little more bloody, you know, like they
Mm-hmm.
were definitely more
Yeah.
intense with it.
Yeah.
But the way it has evolved now, it's definitely a universal concept, because, like, I was in Thailand a couple years ago, and they
Mm-hmm.
have spirit houses
Yeah.
for their loved ones, and they just like it, we have the ofrenda, but they decorate, they put water, they keep it updated every day, it's in the front of their house. So every culture has a concept of Dia
Yes.
de los Muertos.
Mm-hmm.
This just happens
Right.
to be the one for our culture. So whatever culture you belong to, like, look into your
Mm-hmm.
history and see
Mm-hmm.
how it ties in, so that you can connect with it. And if not, like, look at your local community where there's an ofrenda where you can put a picture of a loved one and share their story, write a letter to them. You know, the sugar represents the sweetness of life, and the
Okay.
skull represents that the body is gone. They're dead. It's the skull. But the sugar and
Okay.
the color represents the vitality and the beautiful beauty of life. So
Okay.
there's so much
Okay.
to go into it. So
Yeah,
when you see
that's
the
cool.
colorful sugar skulls, you'll never
Mm-hmm.
see a scary sugar skull.
Right. That's right.
As far as I know, like, they're
Or
true
let's put it
de
this
los
way.
Muertos.
that's not the intention
Right, it
of the
is
sugar
not
sugar
supposed to
skulls.
be scary. No,
Right.
it's not evil, it's not haunting, nothing like that.
Right.
It is
Exactly.
truly about, um, celebrating life. And I've heard from so many people how this tradition has helped them process with their grieving and
Mm-hmm.
hold space for, the beauty of the relationship that they had and that person and what they learned from that person. And to me, I think that is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. It might be why I'm drawn to it because when I teach people about, the dead, I people always think that I like, oh, do you feel something more at Halloween? And I'm like, no, it's no different than any other day for me. And what's different though is that when people are putting a focus on connecting with people who have passed, then they're like, oh, you're willing to talk to us on this day. So they amp up their
Mm.
like energy because
Yeah.
they're like saying that. Now, the way you're describing, interesting enough, is pretty much what they always tell me. Like, you can do this with us any day. I
Mhm.
like the idea of ritual that we like take time to like make that moment and connect with each
Yeah.
other, and people are more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But pretty much everything you said, they have told me, like, if you sit by my picture and it helps you to like see me because you're going to open your heart more up, if you open up your heart by like drinking my favorite drink or smoking my favorite cigarette. So we're
Yes.
trying to encourage everyone to smoke, but anyway,
Yeah.
but but like if you do those things, you're gonna feel more open to me and you'll feel me better, and it's more on a positive tip. This is pretty
Yes.
much daily in my readings. I'm telling people, if you want to connect with the people, then if you do it in this fashion, just like they were here, they always
Yeah.
say, just don't talk to me like I'm in a god. Talk to me like I was your brother, I was your
Yeah.
sister, I was your mother, I was your best friend. Talk to me like you knew me before,
Yeah.
so that we can like have a true connection. And whenever I get candles I get these skull beeswax candles, and I dress them. If I do like I can't do it at this particular seance because they don't want fire, which is okay. I understand that. But normally, if I do something like this, I always put color with like I put layers, different layers, like 3 layers or 4 layers of different colors on the skull. It's always colorful, and people are like, "Oh,
Mm.
it's so pretty." I go, "Yeah, because it's supposed to bring the light and the magic." So I
Yes.
feel like intuitively, I was maybe that's why I've been more drawn to
Yeah.
it. You're gonna say something, Maya?
Well, yeah, if you ever get a chance, go to Mexico for Dia de Muertos.
Oh my
Because I
gosh,
mean, I
yes.
feel like I'm intuitive, but I'm not like a obviously not like a psychic medium, but it's you feel something
The energy.
extra when you're there.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
I
yes.
we've been told too that the veil is much thinner on November 1st and 2nd. And Walter Mercado actually passed away on Day of the Dead, like on either November 1st and 2nd, which is like the fact that he's like this, you know, well-known like psychic medium and astrologer, like,
Mhm.
and that he died on like the Day of the Dead was like wild. But every time I go, like I every single year, I wonder if it's gonna happen this year, but every single year I always get pulled to go to Mexico during Day of the Dead
Mhm.
randomly. I don't decide it at all. It just is like there's a trip, like, do you want to go? And I always end up in Mexico for Dia de Muertos. And it feels like this is where my spirit angels and my ancestors want me to be. And it
Mhm.
just feels like, I don't, just so connected.
You
And
know what's interesting is when my dad had cancer and we knew
mm,
his time was limited,
Mhm.
he came to one of our exhibits where it was all Day of the Dead stuff.
Mhm.
And he looked at the paintings and he goes, "These are really cool, but after I die, don't paint me as a skeleton." And he goes, "Just remember,
Yeah,
just don't be sad, like
yeah.
just remember like everything I taught you and all the
that's
stories I
right.
told you." And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Thank you for telling me that." Like, I've never painted him as a skeleton or anything, like I've honored his thing. But what was so cool this year, July 14th was the 15th year passing anniversary of his passing. He was a jokester. Like, he always loved playing pranks. The next day, which everyone says, "Oh, July 15th was supposed to be like this heavy day." I got my 23andMe results because going to Spain, I'm like, how much Spaniard do I have in me? And it showed that I had an unidentified half sibling from my dad. So I
Oh,
go through the
snap.
whole day interrogating my family, crying, praying, talking to my all these things, just re-questioning my life. 12 hours of this. I finally get on with 23andMe. Turns out it was a mistake. They
Okay.
made a mistake. And
Come on,
I am
23
like,
me. Just
this
like
was my
ripped through
dad.
someone's life.
Yes, this was totally my dad's joke of like
Mhm.
making sure that we were not crying about like we were he put us on our toes because we were laughing, like we had a group chat with all my cousins, like we laughed so hard. And I know my dad had a hand in it, like wherever he is, it was totally a dad prank that he would have done, and it just was a reminder to me of like who he was when he was alive. He was just this
Right.
happy, jovial man, and it just I'm like, okay, Dad, you got me, you got me.
That was an interesting joke to
Yes, oh my God.
it also could be maybe getting you a way to focus on something else. That's just kind of,
Yeah,
as a medium is my hit on it.
okay.
Yeah, it's like a way to distract you from maybe the
Yes,
sadness and talk about
exactly,
something
that's what I
else.
feel it
Yeah.
was,
Oh, we were
Mhm.
definitely.
cackling, and his we got closer to our cousins who is his brother's kids and who passed away.
Who
And
we thought was his, maybe that was his secret son. Like
we
Oh
thought
the
that
my
his
stories we
father was,
came up with that day,
yeah,
it
but
was
I could
like
totally
so
see that.
crazy.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I my the interesting thing is my real father, I always had a feeling I'd find him either after he passed or he would pass right away. I always predicted it. I did find his uh, children, and I didn't really choose to meet him because I had a. I won't get into it on here. I'll save it for my book. But I had a feeling about it just was it didn't need it to be in my life. And pretty much a year after I found him or less, he passed. So I went to go meet the family, and I'm Aztec. That's what my 23andMe. It's very hardcore Aztec. It's
Uh-huh.
like big time. It's like, okay, there's no doubt about that side of me. It was very clear. Like there was no surprises. It was
Yeah.
like you're Aztec and you're um I forget the type of Jewish. It's a very common, but anyway. So when I went there, though, they had an altar and they were burning incense. Now, I come from a family that's very academic, so they're not into any of this stuff at all. Like my mother died when I was 10 days old, so my aunt and uncle raised me. So my aunt, meaning my mother's sister, raised me, and and they are not into all these things. So when I went there and they had a little altar and they were burning incense, and then they had Aztec dancers
Oh,
to bring his spirit up,
yeah.
I was like, well, I definitely feel like I'm not so original anymore. And they were like, what do you do? And they were like, well, yeah, duh. That was their reaction. Like, we're all into this stuff. Like, they were not too much to the extent. Some of them do cards and things like this, not to the extent of professionally, but they were not surprised. And it was the weirdest feeling because when those dancers were dancing and the incense were burning, I could see him, even though I never met him. And it was like, okay, this is interesting. This is very like,
Yeah.
obviously, I've been connected to something. I tend to have a very like pragmatic and scientific point of view sometimes about the dead. And so, especially when it comes to the veil, because to me, the veil doesn't thin because it's always there. But that's because for me, it's always there. It doesn't mean it is.
Right.
But I do believe what happens is it is important that when people gather and they say, let's all gather and create a positive energy and
Yeah.
connect to our loved ones, it lifts it. The veil is literally your eyes open to it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that even in that moment, I was like, well, this is kind of how I believe we should deal with the dead. When they were dancing, I was like, this is what I would want for me. Like, this is what I believe in. Because even in that circular moment of the everything going, I was like, this is why it works. Because if you have people gathering, like you said, to your point, in a positive way. On a mundane note, I just want to ask you what could people do that's like, I know you obviously sell things and you make things and they can definitely go, we're going to like definitely direct people to your work, but like what could people do? Like, let's say they're like, there's a lot of listeners I have, they're like, Adela, I'm in Kansas and there's no like
Yeah.
celebratories of these sorts. Like, what could someone do in their little space? Would you suggest for them? Like, what could they do at home?
Well, if they have access online, there are a lot of resources there. There's even printables where you can make your own little shadow box. I think
Oh,
just
okay.
basically, um, if you could have a picture of them, some people don't have a picture. You're like, in the movie Coco, they're like, you have to have
Yes.
the picture. But during the Aztec times, they didn't have pictures.
Wait a
So
minute.
it's
Wait,
okay.
Book of Life or Coco? Which you guys vote real quick.
Oh,
I
I
love
loved it.
Coco.
Yes.
What
Yes.
about the Book of Life?
I
I
love
No?
the
love
Book of
that one
Life.
too.
Love Book of
Yeah.
Life. Yeah.
I really love both of them.
Coco more?
I think
Um.
equally for me, equally for different reasons.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Equally
Yeah.
for okay.
One
Okay.
one is very Chicano because I know the guy who made it, and then the other one is very much Disney esque, like all around Mexico.
I know one of the guys
Yeah.
who made the Book of Life too. They used to
Yes.
come to my classes and stuff.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but you brought it up, and I realized I wanted to ask you that.
Love
But
it.
I get what I feel. I agree with you both. I think there are different reasons, different things for different reasons. One's more very traditional to me,
yeah.
the Book of Life, and
Yeah.
Coco's more. You're right, Disney. Anyway,
So
continue
I would
on,
say if
Kathy.
you want to honor a loved one for Dia de los Muertos, you can create a little space in your house.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's on an end table, on a shelf. You can put a picture of them, a little candle, marigold flowers. You can make paper marigolds if you don't buy fresh marigolds. Put some items that they really liked a lot, maybe a little copal incense. You can cut your own papel picado. Like they have everything, all the resources and tutorials online so that you can do it. And that's just one way. Another way is I guarantee that if they do some research in their community, our Latino community is everywhere. And I bet there will be a local community center, a library, a boutique, someplace that will have an ofrenda, a community ofrenda, where you can go and put a picture at the community ofrenda, watch the dancers perform, singers, learn about it. What I have learned doing this for, more than 2 decades is that if you look for it, you'll find it. And there's even live things online that you can see, but it could be as simple as writing a letter to a loved one about, the lessons you learned from them, and put it with their picture, light a prayer candle for them. It can be as simple as that. So it's really whatever is most comfortable for you. And remember, it is about honoring the person. It's not
Right.
about us being sad and grieving. It is
Mhm.
about honoring their life, that they were here
Right.
and
Mhm.
they made a mark and they had favorite things. And so it's about celebrating their lives and celebrating the cycle of life, of recognizing that death is part of our cycle, that we
Right.
all will go there. So that helps alleviate
Mhm.
some of the sadness, because you're like, no, let's put their playlist together.
Mhm.
Let's put, their favorite flowers and I'm going to watch their favorite movies all day today. So it's really about celebrating them.
I appreciate that. I wanted people to hear a little bit of both because I have people who listen who kind of can't let people know they're into these things. So they can't go to a place even if there is something happening. I have people tell me all the time like they have to kind of hide it and kind of keep it on the down low. So doing a little something like that at home will help them, but for those of you who can, you can heed Kathy's words. Is there anything you want to add to that, Maya?
I mean, yeah, just plus one. Like I'm actually thinking of making a little like altar in my home for like my grandma, my grandpa, and
Mm-hmm.
just because I feel like more so this year, like connected to my grandma, and I feel like I want to just like I want to develop that relationship since I didn't have like a relationship with her like that I really wanted to, living and stuff. So I really, I feel her, and I agree with talking to them like they're your homegirls. I talk to her
Yeah,
like she's my homegirl all the time. Where
yeah,
I'm like, girl, what do you think about this?
I totally
Yes.
do with my family, and I can hear them. I'm like, you guys have been slacking on some shit, and you need to like ante up some things, and then I'll get signs, and because even though I can hear them and see them, I still like the tangible like signs and things because that makes it
Yes.
really fun for me too. Because I'm living here on Earth, everybody, so not all the time do I want to only talk to them in
Yeah.
that type of way. So okay, so let's
But
get
support
to
your local artists. That's a
support
big
your
one.
local artists
Go
is
check
very
out what
important.
exhibits are happening,
Hmm.
fiestas, all of that.
Fairs.
Support it. Community is super important too.
Yes, that is really very, very true and important. I love going to fairs. I love going to farmers market. My favorite thing to do is to get something. I don't want to say it like, oh, it has to be original, but I like something that I can feel the person's energy because I'm sensitive to that, and I'm like they put their heart into it. I wanted to add that I have an altar. I have an altar that I put like everything on. So if people want to, if you don't want to just do an ancestral altar, you can just do an altar for all the things. I have pictures of my family on there, but I put little special things. Even someone drew my like painted my spirit, and I put that up there. So you could do that as well. But you're right. Support your local artist, especially it's something so amazing like that
Mhm.
because it creates a
Yes.
different energy for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, you ready to get into your email now? That
Oh, yes.
you're probably like, Adele, I was ready a long time ago. Hello. Okay, so let's get into it. So I'm going to break it down. If you guys recall, this was Kathy's email. I asked Maya, and she's like, just stick to my mom because she said she
Because
has the juicy
I
stuff.
mean, she does, and also I grew up watching this. Like I remember living in that one of the houses that was like weird, and yeah.
Wait, this isn't the story she
Oh
sent
no,
in,
no, no.
though.
What did you send?
Maybe there's
That
another
was what
story.
that story kicked off all of the other
Okay,
Okay.
stories.
we better get into it
Yeah,
then.
Oh, there's
the
Okay.
origin
yeah, we got to do a
story. I
3-part
just
series.
jumped to the origin
It's
story.
like I have a feeling there's more to it. Okay. So I want you to know, Kathy. Well, wait, I'm going to tell you as we go. So get into it. So
Okay.
you had your first encounter. It was 1990, and you had your son. Um, it was your son, right?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Or okay, because it's weird. I had my son 6 weeks early. Same story. The
Yeah.
C-section, traumatizing. When I read this, I'm like, I feel everything she's feeling. And I'm going to keep the hospital private because I tend to be
Okay.
very protective. I know you're public, but still, for me, because it's the same hospital. Is it out here in LA? Did this happen?
It's in Phoenix.
No,
Phoenix.
okay, but it's the same name.
The
That's what
same
was
name.
so
Okay.
weird for me too. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay,
Whoa.
leaning on this quite a bit. All the things she started talking about, I was like, we'll get into it. Okay, so after the procedure, so first of all, you said you were tucked away and you were comfy in your room. Um, and of course, you're knocked out with painkillers. So anybody who knows what it's like to go through a C-section and they think and especially it's traumatizing when you
Yeah.
go through it in that way, when it's
When
like
you're not expecting it. Yeah.
it's like this is going to happen. I was on bed rest, so I was expecting it could happen, but it doesn't matter. It was like we're doing this today. That feeling it's hard. It's
Yeah.
very emotionally, mentally, spiritually difficult. So you're knocked out and your husband's asleep in the chair and then you're finally like, finally, I can get some sleep. Why don't you take us through from that point to the point where you suddenly have a pillow slapping in your face? So kind of talk about it
Yeah.
in your words.
Well, I was I had just had this major cut in my abdomen that day, and I was sleeping, being as gentle as I could, knocked out, and I just felt like someone smacked me in the face with a pillow, like so hard. And I jumped up out of pain and I go, oh, and I jumped up, and then my abdomen, I was like, oh, and I screamed out, and my husband jumped up and goes, what happened? What happened? And I said, why did you do that? And he goes, what? I go, what? You just hit me in the face with the pillow. And he said, I would not do that. There's no way I would do that. And I'm like, well, someone just hit me in the face with a pillow. Like,
Right.
it still stung. I could feel it on my skin. It was throbbing and hot. And he goes, I swear to God, I did not do that. And he like took my
Let
hand
me
and he
pause
goes,
you for a second to ask you a question that I know everyone's thinking. How did you know it was a pillow?
it just felt like a pillow.
Okay.
It
Okay.
felt
Okay. It's
like
good
a
to
pillow,
know.
like soft and hard, like someone had just grabbed it from the next bed and just like boom in my face,
Okay.
like a slap. And
Okay.
he told me, my husband knows the history of everything, and he's like, we're in Phoenix's oldest hospital in the oldest wing, and they're doing
Uh,
construction. And he goes, that's all I'm gonna say. He goes, I think we need to
mm,
pray right now.
okay.
And we had just a little bit of moonlight shining through the window, and he took my hand and we started praying, and he goes, you know what, let's get the F out of here tomorrow. Like, let's get our baby and get out of here. Like,
Yeah.
this is not good. And while we are praying, the door like just
Wait
burst
a minute. You're
open.
skipping something. I have to
You
ask you
heard
about.
like moans and
You
stuff.
said you heard a
Oh
chilling
yeah, oh
wail, a
yeah,
tormented woman.
yeah. So while
Cried
this is going on, like when he said the oldest hospital, everything, we hear this lady moaning,
and
wailing,
crying.
like
Okay.
we could not tell if she was outside our door or in a room down the hall, but it was like a wail I will never forget. She was like, like, oh, it just gives me a chill. Or she's like, whoa, like
Ooh.
just this horrible, torturous.
Wow.
And she got louder and louder. And we looked at each other and I asked him, I go, are you hearing what I'm hearing? And he said, yes. And that's when he said, let's get the F out of here tomorrow. Like,
Okay.
this is like, we're, everything we knew, but we didn't say it out loud. Like, we knew it was something not good. And that's when the door busted open and they wheeled in our little baby for his feeding. And it was so like, when the door opened and they flipped on the lights and they wheeled him in, it felt like a burst of love, like
Oh,
everything just lifted. And I was like, because I saw him, he was like so tiny, and his little
yeah.
eyes, when they're newborns, they go like this in
Right.
their eyes, like, and it was time for his feeding. And I did end up having to stay a couple days, but it never happened again on that situation.
Okay.
But I feel like it toggled on a switch because, later on throughout my life, whenever I was weak like that and vulnerable, it would come back and mess with me.
Well, first of all, let me back up and let everyone know what did you name him?
D'Angelo of the
D'Angelo
Angels.
of the
Yes,
Angels.
that was
Okay.
the name we had for him.
Okay, so you said, and also for everyone to know, you said that you got better at like putting protective energy around you and all of
It
that,
took
right?
about 10 years of this. It took about 10 years of this thing
Okay.
messing with me for me to
What would
finally,
happen after this? What are you saying? So let's break down
um
what you're saying.
well, it goes like, it would hit me, again with the pillow. There
Okay.
was another time when we were staying at my mother-in-law's. We were trying to raise money to rent a house, sleeping on the
Okay.
floor in her living room, like just really stressed out in from every situation. And I would go to bed after working a long day at work. And one time, like, I felt it pick me up by my feet and just
What?
like go to sweep me away. And I remember like clawing through the air. I'm sorry, this like gets weird, but I like clawed through the
You
air.
do
And again,
realize what
my
podcast
body's
you're on. This is
asleep.
not weird.
Huh?
This is it. You realize what podcast you're on. This is not weird at
Okay.
all.
So like my body was there, but I felt
Your
it
spirit.
dragging me away. And I
Okay.
remember clawing through the air to flip over on top of my husband. And I could see him sleeping. And I was crying, like calling, Patrick, Patrick, wake up, wake up, wake up. It pulled me away and it flew me, like dragged me all throughout the house, like right above the floor. And at one point, we flew by this mirror in the hallway, and I saw my face like twist, like it was not my face. And at that moment, I knew I had to do something. Look, my headphone just so I literally like had to, with all my might. I just was like, I fought it to like let
Okay.
go of me and get free until I woke up. And I go, Patrick, wake up, and I told him what happened. He's like, oh my God, and so it would happen again. It would pick me up, like take me around the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
When we eventually got the money to rent a house, we did not know at the time it was a way station for the Salvation Army. And so
Oh
we
boy.
were tapping it,
Oh
open and
boy.
close. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't hear that. Like, I don't
Did
have
you
time to be
cleanse
talking.
the house before you moved in?
Just
Did
we
you
had not
cleanse
no,
it?
we just were happy. A friend who actually did not have good energy at all, I
Yeah.
learned later on, had like
Mm-hmm.
precarious energy to her. She rented it to us, and we just moved in like happy to be out of my mother-in-law's because we had our whole family of four, and we were like finally have our house. And it would mess with the worst time there, where I was so exhausted from working all day, the kids' homework, dinner, everything. And then I want to go to bed to get my rest, and I couldn't because it would mess with me. And I was afraid to go to sleep. And my husband was like, we need to fix this right now. And we got the kids and we sat, the four of us, and we did a power prayer of like, dear Lord, guardian angels, ancestors, protect us, put spiritual armor for us, and that, you know, nothing can mess with us. We're human beings. Nothing is stronger. We are stronger than any spirit out there. And I just started going to bed with spiritual armor. Like the first
Yeah,
year, I was like,
that's right. Well, the
like,
thing is this is why I always tell everybody all the time, especially everybody who listens, and everyone listen now, when you move into a house, just like you clean the walls, you clean the actual house,
yes,
you got to clean the energy. It's
yeah.
not, I know, I'm going to tell you what I know happened, but I'm going to like jump over to Maya. You said that you witnessed some stuff. What did you witness?
It definitely like the cabinets, and I think I would hear my mom sometimes like get scared, or just like it just did not feel right. But
Very heavy.
I remember at a very young age that my parents educated my brother and I on like spiritual armor, like
Mm-hmm.
and like praying, and like the light, and like surrounding ourselves with a protection, and
Oh, so
like very,
good.
yeah, that's like one of the most important things. I'm so glad that they did, because now I'm like, yeah, fuck with me, try, well, don't, but like, you
Fuck with
know.
me and find out.
Yeah,
Yes.
it like it clicks into this thing where every time my mom tells me that story, that it's that thing of like, you have no power over me,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh, why am I giving so much power to this
Yeah.
entity, or to this thing? But it was the vibes were not, I was young, I was probably like 3 or 4, but
Okay.
I remember it not being fun at all, like it
But
was
you know
weird.
what? It stopped. It
Mm-hmm.
stopped.
Mm-hmm.
When as
Yeah.
soon as I took control, when we finally did buy our house, I remember that was the most important thing to me, was the energy. And
Mm-hmm.
we walked into this house. It was like the second house we looked at, and the husband and wife were sitting in chairs holding hands, and they didn't even have the TV on. I told my husband, this is the house I want. And they said, we raised our whole family here. First time, we're the only owners of this house. And I just knew, like, my guardian angels were like, we're taking care of you now that you called us in, we're taking care of you, and even more so. And yeah, we've been here like 25 years, I think. It has
Yeah.
never happened again.
Okay. So I'm going to
So
get
it's, I think,
into,
going, being vulnerable is like a really important factor.
well, I'm going to get into what it was, what I see
Okay.
it was. Okay. So let's get into it. Um, so the first part of it, when you're in the hospital and um, you have the experience with the pillow, and then I'm going to go down the line of the other stories. My feeling of when I do see that, I actually don't. I know this is going to sound surprising, but it really wasn't something negative. Actually, it was something aggressive, in an aggressive way, trying to get you to pay attention. This is my feeling of what happened and what I
Yeah.
see is that because you were in such a difficult, you were on pain medicine, you just had surgery, it's almost like you're kind of floating between the worlds and you're not quite in your body, you're not quite there. So
Yeah.
that type of thing, it's not, I get that it felt like a pillow because um, that's relatable, but it's
Yeah.
almost like something trying to snap you back into your body, like be awake, be aware, not in the nice way,
Yeah.
because there are spirits that are trying to help and they don't, not all of them do it in the proper way. The feeling I get and the vision I get is that there was a woman, and you know, this is the dark part you might have witnessed, that did die and have something happen in childbirth and have something to her. So she thought she was like getting your attention.
Yeah.
Like, I
Mm.
feel like there were energies that were like, you got to make sure you're okay, like
Yeah.
pay attention. And you got to understand that there are spirits that are very aware that they died and they're very aware of everything that happened. Then there are spirits, just like on Earth in this world, that are kind of like not wanting to really face everything, just like we don't always want to face everything. So this spirit is almost like living vicariously through you, like, don't do what I did, pay attention, wake up, like make
Yeah.
sure you're taking care of your baby. That's why the timing of the baby coming in,
Oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, you need to like take care of your baby because this hospital's bad. Do you
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? And you're like, this is not 19 whatever time you're from,
Yeah.
but they're not fully aware of themselves, that they're dead and that they are in a different world. Some spirits do that. They kind of only see what they want to see, and they're kind of more lost. So even the crying that you heard was her trying to show you this is what women went through here. Right? So your instincts to want to leave was them wanting you to leave.
Yeah. And you know what I just realized right now? Her cries was what I was feeling. Like, this is like a revelation right now because I always had them disconnected. Like, I heard her, but actually, now that you say that, I feel like the emotion of her, the torturous energy
Yes,
was how
right.
I felt going through that experience
Yes,
of that
exactly.
emergency C-section.
Right.
It was so
And
brutal.
didn't
It
they
was
mess up or something? Wasn't there like when they sewed you back up? Wasn't it like? Didn't they mess
no,
up or something?
it was just very abrupt. And
When they do emergency C-sections, they don't do this anymore, just by the way, because I had my kid in 2011 because I had a kid late. Back then, and they would just kind of cut you open, like
yeah,
just butcher you. Now
yeah,
they do like a little slither and they pull the baby through it, almost like they
yeah,
pull it through the birth canal. But back then, it was just they didn't care if they cut through muscles or
yeah,
anything
they
about.
cut
Because there
through
was scar
layers.
tissue or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and now
yeah,
they do it at the bikini line. Like mine, like I remember the nurses going, "Oh, you had a great doctor. She did it great." They
yeah,
do it different now. So going back to her, I see her. She was like, "Wake up! They're terrible here. They're gonna. You got to get out of here." This is what I went through. So you got to realize that what the dead do is, it's kind of, imagine if you could show a video.
yeah,
Imagine if you went back 200 years and you took a video and you showed it to someone and said, this is what's happening. They would be so confused. They're like, what is happening? Like, why are you showing me this horrible video? I don't understand. You're like, no, this is from the past. It's not happening now.
yeah,
Right? It would be confusing. So what she was doing was replaying the past
yeah.
to show you what happened to women. She's like, get up and
Mhm.
wake up, get back in your body. And the weird thing is that when I had the same situation as you, I was like, you know how it is. You're like tired, you're on pain meds. And I remember like falling forward and feeling a finger push me back several
Yeah,
times. It
yeah.
happened to me so many times that honestly, me being me was like, okay, well, if you're gonna help me, I didn't even flinch.
Yeah.
I felt a hand push me back. There's nobody. I was by myself. And it happened a few times. It was like something going, wake up, Adela. Like,
You
you
know
can't
what?
just
I'm
be.
connecting the dots because it was also a message to get out of that house. First, get out of my mother-in-law's
Well,
house,
so
and then get out of the Salvation Army
well,
house.
I'm starting with the hospital, so I'm going to break down the others because there's more to it. We're just starting at the beginning. So the hospital situation was spirits that know that you can feel them, you can hear them, because when you have that ability, you put up like a Wi-Fi signal that they can kind of pick up on.
Yeah,
That's why I was saying when the things were pushing me back, I felt someone standing next to me and was kind of like, it didn't feel gentle and loving. It felt like, wake up, girl, you got shit to do. You're a mom now, and like you're just you're gonna fall over and cause problems for yourself. So, and I also came out of it. Mine was a mess up. My back, something happened to my back during the C-section. So
Oh.
they were gonna want to do back surgery right away. So there was a
The
lot of mess.
epidural.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, we don't know what happened. What did you do? And I'm like, what did I do? Let me think. I had a baby. Like, I went roller skating. I was like, what are
Right.
you
Yeah.
guys? Because they were kind of trying to pussyfoot around it. Sorry to say it that way, but they were. And they were trying to cover it by having me have surgery. So there was multiple things happening. So I felt like something was like, you need to like get it. So my feeling with you though, your story is it's kind of interesting that it parallels, but your story was a particular spirit that had bad things happen to her there and was kind of thinking you were going to have the same thing happen to you. So she was like, kind of projecting, and that's what spirits do sometimes. Like, you
Yeah.
got to get out of here. They're bad. This is what happened to me. Get up. And you're like, what the fuck? Because she's not realizing like this isn't that time. Now, when
Yeah.
we go to your house, the interesting thing about the house is the dragging of the feet again is very interesting because this is something trying to pull your spirit out of your body and take you astral project. So you were going kicking and screaming to do it, but they're not doing it because they're trying to take you. They want you to visit with them. So when spirits see that you have this Wi-Fi, this is why people get sleep paralysis. And because when you get sleep paralysis, you kind of start to go out of your body and then you freak out and then you like try to get back in and you like freeze. But when people feel like something pressuring, what's interesting is you felt like a pillow. Sometimes people feel pressure on them. They think someone's like laying on them, attacking them. When you were feeling it pull from your feet, and what's interesting about that is when I do journeys with people and I try to help people push them out of their bodies, I start by pushing energy through their feet. It's something I've learned from that realm. So they were trying to have you astral project. The reason why you didn't look like yourself because that's your spirit body, it's not your physical
Yeah.
body. And
Yeah.
you were going through like energies. It's like a vibration.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
shaking.
That's
So that
exactly what it.
right.
Yeah.
So when it's like whenever you see in the movies when a spirit like appears and it shakes, it's because they can't hold the vibration here very long because our vibration here is slow, like a sloth. And they're
Yeah.
trying to slow it down and keep it enough so you can see them. And they can't maintain it too much and they have to let it go.
Yeah.
So what was happening to you is you were getting pulled and they were like, they picked you because you tend to do that easier.
Yeah.
When you said I'm going to put energy
I
around
will
me,
say, like, yeah, I will say, like, there would be a couple times, like, when it would swirl me around the ceiling, I was actually having fun.
fun,
Like,
yes,
it was, but then I
You're like,
realized what
wait.
was happening, and I was like, "Oh my
yeah.
god, it's back!" Like, and then I'd like fight to
They
get back
freak
in my
out.
like,
Yes, that's very common.
yeah, yeah.
The
It was
reason I
it was
know
really
this is because the first time this happened to me, I was meditating to like and talking to beings there, and I said, I want to see you guys in person. I used to get sleep paralysis my whole life as a child, all the way up to like 10 years ago until I learned how to stop it, like pretty much like weekly. And so when I was doing this meditation, this was like 20 years ago. I said, I want to see you guys. And then all of a sudden I jumped out of my body and I thought I was having a stroke because my whole body froze. But I was crawling around the floor like you're describing. And then I was trying to hit the TV to turn it on, but my hand wouldn't work. To like, there was no physical. I
yeah,
crawled all the way around and I saw these two beings go, just stand up. You just calm down and stand up. Just stop freaking out and you'll be fine.
yeah,
The second time it happened to me, it was 10 years later. Now I'm well versed in all this. And I had broke my foot. They put the cast on wrong. It was pushing on an artery. No one listened to me. And I jumped out of my body and I was on pain meds, but I also lost feeling in my foot. So all the blood rushed out. And I jumped out of my body and I saw my apartment. This time I stood up, saw those two same beings in long black coats. It's not literally long black coats. Anyway, that's another story. But they were like, I was like, let's go. Let's go. I knew it was going to be cool like this. And they were like, not today. And I felt a hand push my foot. So I started to realize there's these beings that sometimes go, we're trying to get you to let go and fly. So they were doing that. Your instincts, though, your intuition of going, this isn't like the house or the place or the people I want to be doing this. When you started putting protection around you, that's what I always tell people do. If you want it to stop, you have to put the protection. You teaching your kids this, 100% the right thing. That's what does make it stop. However, if you want to play again, you can.
I have. Now I
Okay.
realize
Oh, girl.
I
Yeah.
have other stories, but they're not scary stories. I guess that's what you call astral projection. And
Yes.
what is so
Mm-hmm.
weird is that, yeah, I have had things where my husband calls it, did you go to the Alien Cafe last night? You know, because I would like have things. But the weirdest thing is I have these two marks that showed up at the same spot on each arm. If you put them together, they match. I don't know where they came from. I
Hmm.
don't know where. I
You got a
never had
tattoo
them
at the
before.
Alien Cafe.
I've never been burned
Hmm.
or anything, and they're just both
What did
oval
it look
shaped.
like?
I'll send you
Oval?
a picture. Yeah,
Okay.
they're both oval, and they just line up, and they look
Interesting.
like some. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
Why
bizarre.
does
And
he say go to the Alien Cafe?
huh?
What?
Why does he call it the Alien
Oh, he's
Cafe?
just joking because I
Did you have an
spent
experience?
I had a friend who was um she was unconscious because of COVID,
Okay.
and I would go every night. I would leave my body, fly across the city to talk to her like in my dreams, and we would have these conversations. It was just like energy talking, where I realized that her body part, what her body wasn't going to come back, but I didn't realize it until it was time for her to like really pass. But I
Right.
started doing I was seeing a therapist at the time who would do hypnotherapy, and she would give me these tapes to listen to. So while I was listening to these tapes, I would just go like travel to different places and
Yeah.
have these different experiences. And my husband would joke, he'd call it the Alien Cafe, just because I would wake up and I would tell him about which a lot I can't even remember now.
Right,
But
right, right.
he would joke, like, he goes, yeah, the aliens are with their laptop. Where is that bitch? Where'd she go? She didn't show up last night, you know? Like, it was definitely more playful, and I was more experienced and in control.
Yes.
But now that you tell me like what that past experience was, I was in a completely different mental state.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I was so stressed and scared and vulnerable, worried about everything, so unsure. And now in this state, I am confident and strong, and it's a different type of experience. So that does make sense what you said of like, they're like, oh, she's cool, let's bring her to the Alien Cafe, you know, and oh, she doesn't want to go, she's freaking out, you know.
Yeah. That's how they work. That's why whenever people, it's kind of imagine the way they see us like children. So if you're trying to get a child, you're like, this is going to be fun, you'll like it, and the kid's like, I don't understand what's happening, this looks kind of creepy or scary to
Yeah,
me, I don't want to go. No, you'll like it. And they're like, mm-mm, no. That's how they see us. So if they
yeah,
see that you have a natural gift, that like the Wi-Fi is on,
yeah,
then they try to pull you out. And people always like, oh no, they were attacking me, they're not. But they're not. Those are spirits that are not doing it the proper way. The proper way is like those beings I told you with me, they just stand there
yeah,
and they
yeah.
just support, and they're like,
And
okay, you
you know, the
figured it out,
last time it happened, my husband was like, please don't do that again, because the last time was it was so beautiful. Like, I felt like I was floating, and everything was so light and
Mm-hmm.
airy. And all of a sudden, when I had this thought of like, what is this, what's happening, I realized it felt so heavy again, and my first thought was, oh, I'm back here where everything
Yes.
is so slow and
Slow,
so heavy. And my
heavy.
husband was like, you came back. Like, I don't want you to go and get lost out there and not come back. And then I'm like, I have sleep apnea. Like, was
Uh,
I in the middle of sleep
right.
apnea and I crossed over and then I woke
No,
up and
you
came back?
didn't cross.
Like,
You didn't cross over. You were. When you astral project, it's this world. You stay in this world.
yeah,
When I take people on journeys, I push them out into the higher realms beyond this earthly realm. So
yeah,
I'm never that interested in just walking around my room. I mean, I can do it, but it's not as
yeah,
interesting to me as the other realm. But you were
right.
on your way. And the reason is because when I was little, my whole life, I would start flying and then I would hear a voice say, "You're going too far." And
Yeah,
that's why you can't go too far.
Mm.
But
yeah.
what's interesting is I just had it last 2 episodes before this episode is a woman who has a near death experience, and she describes it exactly like she just left. Everything was light. That she just kind of like felt like she took off soil clothing and had.
Uh-huh.
So she didn't totally cross either, but she was flying around the hospital and peeking in on people. And then she saw this higher being. So you're kind of getting a taste of it, but they will go like you're too. People don't have to worry because there are checks and balances that go, no, 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 you're going too far. Like you got to get back to where you're
Do you
going.
think the first instance of the hospital, like I said, it toggled on this other, did all of this happen
Yes.
because before the hospital experience, I never had anything like
Yeah, it
this.
might. It's kind of like I feel. My feeling is it was you already had that. Maybe was more dormant,
Hmm.
but that experience in the hospital definitely kind of clicked you into it more. And
Yeah.
now you're like, oh, I can like fly around places and do things and be open to things, and for sure. But my sense is you probably had a little bit of this even before. Maybe just was refusing to fully accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So this
thank
was
you. This is good. Oh my gosh. This answers so many questions because
Mm.
honestly, I've been like not embarrassed, but just shy about sharing these
no, don't be
experiences.
shy. It's
Because
you'd
I'm
be
like,
surprised like how many of these I get. Not just on this podcast, but in readings and everything I do, people, this is much more common than people are. I think people are just afraid to understand what it
yeah,
is. Maybe they think they're imagining it or they were taught it's bad. But like you said, the feeling of like, ooh, this is kind of fun. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be like at home with my kids right now.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it pulls you back. Anything you want to add to it, Maya,
I mean,
before we
I
close?
feel like I have astral projected when I was like 8 years old. I remember like a experience where I had like a high fever, like, and
Mhm.
then I feel like I saw my body, like I was floating above my body. But then we were also watching oh, what is it called?
Peter Pan? No, just kidding.
No,
I'm joking.
the one with like the paranormal stuff with like the aliens. It was like a do do do
Poltergeist?
do 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 do.
Poltergeist.
No, not Poltergeist. No, and we were watching. It was like a TV
Oh,
show, X
X-Files?
Files,
Oh, X
and
Mhm.
that
File. Okay.
intro always freaked me out. And I felt like I met aliens that night. I swear. And they were like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm not supposed to." And I'm like, "I'm gonna go."
You're like, "Can you cure my fever?"
Yeah, I'm
That
like,
first of all.
I'm pretty sure I need Tylenol or something. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like I've had moments where I'm my stuff I feel like is not I don't feel like I connect with the dead a lot. I feel like I'm very much like and if I do, I don't know. I think it freaks me out sometimes. Like I think my like spirit guides and stuff know that it freaks me out and I won't receive it. But dreams, yes. Like I have very vivid dreams. I feel
Mhm.
like as a family we're all super connected, and very much I feel like we've all been in the same like soul family for generations, just different like ways. I feel like I've always been a third wheel with my mom and dad. Like they've always been together. Either I've been like the best friend or like a sister or whatever. Like there we just have so much of these kind of like I don't know, we just feel very spiritual a lot and all the time, and it's in our DNA, it's yeah, so whenever my mom tells these stories, like, we're never like, that didn't happen. We're like, and then what happened, that was probably like, we're we're like, yeah, we're
Well,
drinking the
that's
Kool-Aid.
awesome. That's props to your mom for like doing what I always tell people is teach your kids. Now, everyone listening and watching, this is an example. If you teach your kids about energy protection and putting light and you talk about those things, it for sure helps, kids for sure. And it teaches them not to be afraid, teaches them to be empowered. And like Maya is a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
Working.
it also teaches you for your life too, for your intuition of just like what
Mhm.
doesn't feel right, and
Right.
people around you what doesn't feel right. Like it my dad he practices more like indigenous practices with just like different things, and I feel like that protection growing up was so important, because I feel like I've just had a sense of like we're not just humans existing, like we're
Right.
spiritual beings having a human experience, like
Yes, for sure.
that's it, period. .com.
Yeah, I love it. This has been so awesome. It's been awesome for so many reasons. It's just been very positive, very like I feel like we're giving people all kinds of layers of stuff, and I'm glad I got to kind of shine your light onto
Yes,
this.
there's
And
nothing to be
maybe
afraid of.
Kathy, yeah, because let yourself play with it because this is definitely part of who you are. Can you let everybody know where to find your stuff, where to find your work, how to follow you, where to follow you? Kathy, we'll start with
Sure,
you.
you can find me at Crafty Chica on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Threads. CraftyChica.com is my website. And yeah, pop in and say hi. I would love to connect with anyone else who's had similar experiences. I think it's beautiful because that's how my dad was able to, through you, he came through you, Adela, like that
Mm-hmm.
time on Periscope. And I'm just so thankful to receive those gifts and those messages, even if he plays jokes on me sometimes. But
That was a
yeah,
big
I
joke.
love that it removes the fear. Like this changes my whole feeling about those experiences. I don't feel fearful anymore because I feel like I've led my whole life worrying what if it comes back, not
Right.
realizing it's always been here.
And
But
you have control over it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
have control over it. Yes. So thank you
Yes.
for your enlightenment on all of this.
Sure. That's the point of this podcast is to kind of shed that maybe it's not as terrible as you might think. It's just misunderstood.
Yeah.
That's how I like to look at it. All right, Maya, where can people follow you and all the stuff you do?
Yes, you can follow me at Maya in the Moment, Maya in the Moment, anywhere where you scroll. I'm on pretty much everything. Yeah.
Okay, so that means all the
All
things.
the
All the
things. All the
things.
things. Search it up.
Go check out all the things. And you have a podcast.
Yes. Oh my god, thank you. My bestie and I currently have a podcast called the Super Secret Bestie Club podcast. It's with iHeartRadio and Sonoro, and you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. It's a lot of fun about friendship and comedy, and we talk a lot about spiritual stuff. We're gonna have you on the podcast soon. It's gonna be good. Yeah, we talk about literally everything. We're like your favorite cousins, and like, in the treehouse talking.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thank you both so much. Stick around for a minute. Let me say goodbye to you off air as well. Thank you for coming on here and just like shining a light on all the things that I feel like I really wanted people to learn about the tradition. I wanted people to hear your story. And this has been a real treat. And I super appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you.
We love
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Love you too. Bye. Okay, wasn't that awesome? Wasn't it so cool to hear all the things of what this really means? I know I'm supposed to say it in Spanish, but I'm really scared I'm going to butcher it, so I just backed off from trying. But the Day of the Dead is exactly like what I thought it would be. Now, Samhain is a little similar, but it is a lot more intense. And I think that's why I'm drawn to this, because it has a lightness, it brings light, and it wants to bring like a celebration and bring a lighter version of talking about the dead. Also, when it comes to Kathy's situation, I do feel that what happened to her really was something trying to warn her. And I do feel that that same being could be doing the same thing every time she was sad or stressed. It was like somebody from that place was like, I can help you. I've been through things. We kind of have this bond. I really believe that. I didn't hear all the other incidences that she didn't get into any details about that. But that particular one, again, this is a case of it's not always what it seems, meaning like it wasn't all bad. It wasn't somebody trying to do harm to her. It was actually someone trying to help her. And this happens a lot with spirits, that we think that they're bad and they're trying to do something. And that's because we're taught to run and be afraid and run around as scared and run from them and act like they're evil. So that's what we know and that's what we go towards. But in honesty, usually they're not that. And demons and all these type of things are extremely rare. So rare that in the 2 decades I've been doing this professionally, I have only encountered this twice. That's another story, which I actually have told it on this podcast. So I feel like it was just somebody had gone through something similar to her, meaning like they, had a similar traumatized situation in the hospital, and they were just trying to help her. So this is another case of misunderstood. I feel like I should get t-shirts saying spirits are just misunderstood and don't call them ghosts, because they're not, because the ghosts are an empty version of herself. Or in short, spirits are misunderstood and they're not called ghosts. I don't know. I gotta think of something. But a lot of the times they're misunderstood. The spirit world is very misunderstood very much because we are just taught to fear it. And even when they're trying to help, it kind of scares us because of the way they're doing it. And not always is it the right way. But if you look at it like gifts, it slapped her, it got her attention, you hear her crying, you're kind of putting pieces together that something's not right, and she wants to get out of there. And I kind of feel like that's what the lady wanted her to do. So that's what I told her. So another interesting one, right? I'm going to keep doing a lot of interesting things this month. I am trying to work on doing a live podcast where you guys can join along with me when I want to go to a cemetery, or I'm going to go to a place that's quote haunted, and I'll record it and you guys can be live with me. I'm working on that. I think I'm going to go by myself and do it because a lot of people seem to be a little bit nervous about it. I've asked quite a few people. And that's totally fine because I'm kind of used to that and it's fine. But I do think I have two friends that I think really want to do this. So this could be fun. But yeah, I wanted to remind everybody to follow me on Instagram, Adele Levine, follow me on the House Medium, and also on my YouTube channel, follow me, Adele Levine. And don't forget, my services are adelelevine.com. And I'm on TikTok as well. And if you're in Utah, sign up. I'd love to see you. I can meet you, read you. You can come to the seance, do all those good things. Let me know if you are interested in me adding a date in Burbank to do another seance in the seance room and all of that jazz. Lastly, wanted to remind everybody that I do mentoring. People ask me about this. I do one-on-one mentorship. And that's for people who really want to hone their psychic abilities or maybe want to go professional after they've practiced, of course. And if you want to support this podcast, I always say, please go to my Patreon. This is where I post daily energy climates. I post classes for the Sacred Scholar tier. I post tips, and I do speed readings every month for every person that is on my Patreon. And I am adding a Q&A that I'll do live regarding the classes of psychic development and all this. They're on video. You can watch them. I want to be clear about that because people think they have to come live, but you can watch them whenever you want on your leisure. And those are all my things. So thank you guys so much for joining with me on another adventure. Please be nice to spirits. Know that they're just people who died. no big deal. We all are going to find out what lies beyond this world, right? And wouldn't you want someone to just honor and be nice to you and talk to you and, be your friend a little bit, maybe be open to talking to you? Wouldn't you want that? Then do the same. Just give them a break. Follow yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice, and I'll see you soon.